The Commanders are 1-0. Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. We'll have a story up for Tuesday about the Commanders' run game. So much worked well. And then also, we're actually about the addition of Deebo Samuel, but also incorporating some other parts of the offense that really worked well on Sunday in the 21-6 win over the New York Giants in the season opener before a sold-out crowd. And by the way, just one little note. First of all, the John Keim Report is presented by AAA. And don't forget my friends at chubbyshorts.com. Get $10 off. When you go to chubbyshorts.com, you can, I've shown you the fun shirt that they have for sale. They have shorts, they have swim trunks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. chubbyshorts.com/Keim. Now, before I get into the game recap, just one little note for you for the live stream this week. There will not be a live stream this week because usually Bram and I do it Tuesday night. Because it's a short week, makes it awfully tough. I also have a lot more, I will have some TV responsibilities on Tuesday, just makes things a lot tougher. I don't know what time I'll be done. And because it's a short week, it's just going to make it very, very tough. So this week, we will not have a live stream. We will get to that after next Tuesday after the Packers game for sure. And one reminder for ESPN.com, I will have a story about Jaden Daniels coming out Thursday. So look for that and give that a read. And I want to thank the club members that joined me Sunday morning. I hope more of you guys can take advantage of that. Had a handful, would like to see a lot more in there because I'm going to be willing to talk to you guys for about 15, 20 minutes before the game. Good opportunity to just kind of check in from the stadium. So anyway, let's get to the game because that's really what you want to get to. And it was an opener was it a scintillating win? It doesn't have to be. It's a 21-6 win over the New York Giants. And it's the first time they've won 3 in a row over the Giants since the 1999-2000 season. Actually, goes back to a 4-game win streak to 98. But that's why, this is a very good win for a couple of reasons. One of which is there are things that they didn't do well. And that's not bad because they can do much better offensively. Defensively, a dominant performance against an offense that I think is going to struggle a lot of the year. But I will say, you want to start that way. If you're facing an offense like that, and they faced offenses before that maybe weren't that great, especially in New York, and seemed to do well against them, not today, folks. So we'll get into that in a minute, but I'm going to start with a couple things and some things that Dan Quinn talked about finding the identity. They are not anywhere near as good as they're going to be down the road. And this, so in terms of how they're going to play consistently and all that. But what Dan Quinn liked, and I would agree with him, is the early games are about establishing your identity. How are you going to play that season? The rest of the stuff, the penalties, not good. They've got to clean that up. Some of the issues on offense, the drops, some of the passing game was a little bit off in the timing. You can clean that up. But you can't, if you want to be a tough, physical, smart team, you've got to show that right away. And I think they did, especially the tough and physical part for sure. I think they showed, you saw that on defense, on the defensive line in particular. Javon Kinlaw, talk about him in a minute. But I think that's where we're going to start there is with finding that identity, because I think that's important to establish before you move forward with the season. I think it's good to do that. And like I said, they're going to get better in offense. And so this is what I liked. So what I liked is what I heard from a lot of players, from Dan Quinn, from Jaden Daniels, from Zach Ertz. Jaden Daniels was more frustrated and not, I wouldn't say upset, but certainly a little bit more frustrated than he would have liked coming off a win. That's a good sign. Zach Ertz was talking about his frustration. That's a good sign. These are guys who have a certain, and Zach Ertz talked about too, and so did others. They have a certain standard, and when you have that standard, you want to uphold it. And they did not feel like offensively they upheld it. I think that's a good sign because they know they're capable of more. And that's why I'm not trying to harp on negative here. I'm trying to tell you, I think that's a good thing. Jaden Daniels was upset about the play that happened at the end of the half. And he was really upset, from my understanding, just about how he just called it a miscommunication. But he was, so I think those are I like when guys get like that, yeah, you won and it was by double digits, by double digits, but they know it could have and should have been better. You look at like, shoot, they had 432 yards total offense to 231. That easily could have been a 30-6 type game. And that's what it felt like it probably should have been. But the good thing is, and shoot, when I used to coach basketball, like if you're not in position to make shots, you're not going to make them. These guys are in position to make plays. It's much like the Giants game last year where they had all those yards, but they couldn't convert in the red zone because of penalties, because of whatever. And then it's like, okay, that's a good sign though, because they're going to score in the red zone. And sure enough, they went boom, 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 boom. And I think that's what's going to happen here. And so I was talking to someone else, like, forget like the first couple of games last year, it did take them a couple of games to kind of get their footing as a passing attack. Now, some of that was they're all new and Jaden Daniels was a rookie, not a rookie anymore. But I think I think it could take them in. And this is one of the things I was worried about, or not worried about, but thinking about going into the season and wondered about is the offensive cohesion early. They didn't have the best of summers because of Terry McLaurin out, Noah Brown out. You have some other issues on the offensive line, guys in and out. So I hope you're enjoying the cartoon in the background there. But so that definitely was something I felt like, okay, what's that going to look like early? And I think we saw some of that today. I don't think the timing was always there, even though there were a lot of good things I think that happened, and I'm going to get to those for sure. But there were drops, like Zach Ertz had a drop. There were, a couple of drops today. There were some miscommunications. Just I brought up the one with Jaden Daniels, but also then he had a deep ball to Terry McLaurin that give him that one 9 times out of 10, he's going to hit that one. And for some reason, just an overthrow. Things were just a little bit off. But again, they were in position to make that. They weren't off because, and I even asked someone like, was it off because of what the Giants did? And in Zach Ertz, like, hey, listen, I had a drop, I had a false start. It wasn't because of what New York did, it's because of what I did. So that was also a good thing. It wasn't like New York was just taking it to them. I think there were a couple times Giants defense did well up front, but I really thought it was what Washington did or didn't do. And that's why I think that there's encouragement from that showing. And again, it's a 21-6 win. That's like, we're talking about an offense that was disappointed in what it did after a 15-point win. That's because of what the defense did. Again, I'll get to them in a minute. So room to grow. And I think if they were more crisp, they have over 500 yards of total offense. And again, probably 30 points. And I don't think it was any one thing in particular. And as Ertz said, it wasn't one player or wasn't any one thing. It was just, hey, it was sometimes that happens. They only allowed 3 sacks. But here we go. 220 yards rushing, a diverse rushing attack. And it wasn't just because Jaden Daniels out there running wild. He had 68 yards rushing. They rushed for a lot of yards and they did it very well. And that's what you needed. That's what you want to see. I thought the run offense and the run defense was outstanding. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see if you're Washington. But so let's get to some of that too. And I think some of that, I'm going to get into more of that. I'll do my little breakdown or game review, not necessarily a breakdown, but a game review for Tuesday. I'll have a Packers reporter on for Wednesday, and then I'll do my 5 thoughts for Thursday. But so I'm going to get into some more of this on Tuesday. But a couple of things I really like, obviously, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Bill. So Bill had a really good game. 10 carries, 82 yards, 6-yard touchdown run. It's funny because on the touchdown, you saw like he keeps forgetting to get the ball. So he's like, if I score, I got to keep the ball. Well, he didn't. Terry McLaurin had to go get it for him. But that's something that these guys are cognizant of that. It's funny because it's one thing that Dan Quinn liked to see. Jaden Daniels went and got the ball for, in the preseason for someone else when they scored. And this is what McLaurin did for Krosky-Merritt. But really good game. And the things that you liked about him, whether it's on film, whether in practice, or sharp cuts, vision. And I think you saw that on display for sure. Like you saw him being able to cut and go forward in tight areas, but I felt like he was doing a good job of kind of setting some guys up and, just being able to run with some patience, letting somebody commit and then playing off that. And on that 6-yard touchdown, and I think that was an example. That play's supposed to go up the middle, and he starts up the middle. They crash. The safety comes flying up. He sees it, vision, cut to the outside, scores untouched. Really good job by Krosky-Merritt. You saw that on his 11-yard run. He's able to kind of get guys to widen a little bit and then cut back inside. And he runs those sharp cuts are why they were excited. Now, Anthony Lynn was like, I want to see him in a game first. Well, he did. And now you know what he can do. And, it's this, this young man can be pretty good for them. So it's one game, but it's good against a good defense. And the key in the NFL is consistency, but there's nothing that you've seen from him that suggests, oh, this was just an outlier. I think, was he going to be great really good every game? Who knows? I also like, by the way, on Deebo Samuel's touchdown run, who threw a key block? Krosky Merritt. So that's another good sign too. I saw him throwing a block on a Jaden Daniels run as well that I think was called back for a penalty. But the fact that he's out there doing that, I like what I see from him. And it's like, that's what you want to see from running back. You're not getting the work, go find the work. And that's what he did. But I really like the vision, and that's going to bode well for sure. Yeah, just a really good game by him. I mean, it's surprising just because it's surprising because it is his first game, but it's also, he didn't play last year. He played one game at a high D1 school at Arizona, and it wasn't against a Power 5 opponent or Power Four opponent, and or a group of four, whatever they want to call it now. But it was, that was the only time. So he didn't play all last year. You see, you're like, yeah, you like this, but it's like it's against New Mexico State or it's against whatever, Utah, whatever. And so you see it, but how good will it be? And you saw some of the signs, the preseason, the patience, the vision, just a really good job right there. Then, of course, there's Deebo Samuel, another really good debut for a guy, right? 7 catches, 77 yards, 1 run for 19 yards. I love that motion. There were a couple times he would go in motion, and I think this is where that diverse rushing attack happens. They're running basically a power sweep with a receiver, but he's a big receiver. And on the play, he slips one tackle, slips another tackle, lunges for the end zone for the touchdown, but a really well blocked play. Tunsil was out there. Bates was out there. I talked about Krosky Merritt already. Tyler Biotis got down there and got a guy. So just a well executed run, but a really diverse player. And I think Deebo, like, that's exactly the kind of debut you'd like to see from him and what he can possibly add here. Again, will it be like that every game? Well, it's not going to have to be, because some games Terry McLaurin's going to have a bigger game. He only had 2 catches, and then Noah Brown only 2 catches. Other games, those two are going to obviously have some big games. Today, it was Deebo Samuel, but I think Deebo is going to be a factor every week because of that run game, because of what he adds there and the attention you have to pay to him. And it's funny because, like, if you remember, there was an 8-yard run by Jaden Daniels today on one around the left end. And on the play, they're faking it inside to, you have Deebo comes in motion, you fake it inside to Eckler, and you got 8 guys coming inside. You got 3 guys, and Jaden takes it outside. You got 2 blockers and 3 defenders. So you got two blockers on there, and you got Jaden basically one-on-one with the defender, and he just gets forward for 8 yards. A good, solid run by them, but it's that diversity in the run game that I think is going to give defenses fits as the year goes on, or just because there's going to be a lot of confusion or about who's going to get the ball here, right? You have multiple weapons who can carry the ball. When Deebo's in the game, he can get it. Jaden can run with it. Eckler, or whomever is in the backfield can run with it. By the way, no surprise that Eckler got a lot of work in the first half. I think that was always the plan. He's the guy that they knew and trust. But I think the more you see stuff like that from Krosky Merritt, the more they can trust him. There are going to be a lot of situations he's going to have to pass that test. But he did today. And again, Deebo for sure did. There are a couple times where I think like the connection between he and Jaden will get better. A couple times he was open. A couple times there's some 50-50 balls that maybe he could have had. Could have had over 100 yards receiving if you do that. So that's why I say I think that's another good sign, but he's an absolute weapon. And I think it's fun to watch a receiver run on those kind of runs. Then you have Zach Ertz scoring another touchdown in the red zone. That's where he's obviously been very good for these guys. 7 red zone touchdowns last year, adds to 1 this year. And it's funny because like you always hear like, oh, is that the same route? Like there's one route that he ran against Atlanta. He's run a variation of that play, or they've run a variation of that route. And sometimes it looks like the same play, but it's really maybe isn't. But on this particular is not the same one that he scored on last year against Atlanta. I think it was Atlanta. Yeah, it was Atlanta, the game winner. This one on this play, what I liked about this is the smart veteran aspect to Zach Ertz. So on the play, got the linebacker covering. He's coming out. He knows the linebacker has the flat in coverage. So what does he do? He dekes to the flat, kind of throws his head there, and the linebacker starts, boom, planting and going to the flat. Cuts back inside, easy money. So that was just knowing your opponent, knowing their responsibility, and then setting them up to fail because he knows their responsibility. And it's exactly what happened on that play. And again, with Jaden Daniels, was it his best game? No. But listen, here's what he did: 11 carries, 68 yards, 233 yards passing, a touchdown, no interceptions. So like one of the things he does very well is protect the ball, but he uses legs to get them out of trouble. There was a third down and was it 17? Gets 12 yards, picks up a tough, or 12 yards is up comes up the pocket, bounces out 12 yards, sets up a third and medium with the 3rd and 5, and that's when he got to Deebo Samuel for a first down. That was a key drive for sure, and that was set up because of his legs. So he impacts all the time. There were a couple of times where the throws a little bit behind guys. Balls that guys could have caught still, but it wasn't as pinpoint accurate as we're going to see him in other games. But again, that I don't worry about that because that's not a habit. That's an outlier for him. And I think the more they're together in these game-like settings, the more you're going to see it. Like, keep in mind, this is really the first time they played at this level as a group this summer. Like, they didn't get it in the joint practice because, well, Deebo and Ertz did. So there's more of a chemistry there. And I still think you saw that. But as a group, they didn't really get a lot of work in game action. And Tom Lavero from the Washington Times even asked Dan Quinn, like, there's all this talk about, getting used to things. Could that have happened in the preseason? Well, the answer is Dan Quinn was even honest, like, yeah, that's a fair question. And we don't know because they didn't do it that way. And I also understand why they do this, because they want guys, they're very focused on health, and then having the veteran players especially be able to last throughout the season. But so that's why I say I'm not concerned about that, because that timing will come. And we've seen what happens when that timing comes, and you put that talent with Cliff Kingsbury as a play caller, I think it'll be just fine. Fourth quarter, Daniels was 4-5 for 45 yards. Very good job. He had a really nice throw to Chris Moore early in the game. Moore makes a nice catch along the sidelines, tippy toes. Moore struggled dropped a couple balls in the preseason, dropped a couple balls in practice, but he made the roster and he played today because they were keeping McLaurin. They wanted to make sure they didn't wear those guys out because it was the first game back for McLaurin and Brown. And so Moore could go in and do that. Jalen Lane can go in for the Z spot, like he was in place of Noah Brown. Moore could go in for McLaurin at the X. So you saw Moore with I think it was like a 90, I can't remember how, it was a long throw. Very good job, just a nice job by Daniels. He's just, looks left, back middle, looks to the right, boom, sees him, goes, that ball's out. Just, that's how it goes. Boom, boom, boom. But really nice catch by Moore. Moore also had a good block on a run around the other side as well. Another play I liked, little play action where you quick hitter to Noah Brown. And what I like on that too is he's coming behind or on the same side as Zach Ertz, who's drawing two guys, and that one guy trying to kind of maybe be a little bit more physical with them. That opens up a little hitch for Noah Brown, and just another one that I liked for sure. All right, so let's get to the defense, because they were really, really good. And I think, you have to start up front, and I think you have to look at probably the first couple plays of the game where Javon Kinlaw, so they open up in their big defensive tackle set. So one of the things they knew that the Giants were going to do is try to run the ball against them. Well, the Giants couldn't run the ball. Their running backs combined for 15 carries for 30 yards. Outstanding. That was as good as you'll see them play the run. Now, Andrew Thomas wasn't playing for the Giants, so Giants are left tackle. It's a pretty ordinary offensive line. I think we all know that hasn't always mattered against this defense, but today that wasn't happening. I think there's a couple reasons why that line was really good. Javon Kinlaw in the first set, they had a 3D tackle set, so Kinlaw was at end. He's a tackle. That's where he always plays. But this is what I said they've been doing all summer in their 3D tackle set. He'll play the end. So on the play, he lining outside the right guard, just cuts inside, power, quickness, stop, big play, first play for Kinlaw, for sure. I was as a commander. So big moment for him. He feels really good because he's been healthy for now. This will be second year healthy, which meant in healthy offseason. Big deal for him. So, but a good debut. He and Daron Payne were terrific. Here's what they combined for. They combined for 8 tackles, a sack, 2 passes defensed, 2 tackles for a loss, 3 quarterback hits, and a sack. So an outstanding game by those two. And I know like the big thing with Duran, there are questions with the contract. So it's pretty much a contract year. Last time he had a really good year with the contract year, he also had a really good offseason. So coincidence or not, the Commanders should benefit. So they have a few guys in that role. Deebo Samuel, contract year, big year. Marshawn Lattimore, big year. He had a solid game as well. So it's not bad to have guys in that spot. But Daron Payne had a big game too. And that's what you want to see from this front. And I'm going to watch more of that for sure. Again, Marshawn Lattimore, good game. Malik Neighbors, what did he end up with? I have the numbers right here. Malik Neighbors, 5 catches for 71 yards, 12 targets, 5 catches. Pretty good job overall. They did try to get to him deep, couldn't do it. He did have a 25-yard catch. Really, he's obviously a very good receiver. Had a couple of really nice grabs. But overall, I felt like they did a really good job against the receivers. Russell Wilson, 17 for 37. They'll take that every time. And I think it's maybe why they see Jackson Dart the next time they play the Giants. We'll see. But you wonder how, like, Russell did not look very good. But I also think that the front had something to do with that. And I think the coverage had something to do with that as well. Will Harris, I think it did a nice job. Trey Amos, pretty good job. And so I think overall you should feel pretty good. The one guy who got targeted a little bit and by Neighbors was when Mikey Samuel went out and then he missed a couple plays. And then Igbenogany, they targeted him right away twice out of the slot with Neighbors, and the second one he got the 25-yard catch. A nice ball from Russell Wilson, but that's for Igbenogany, he's had a good summer, but you still want your guys in there, and that would have been Samerstill. I also liked how Samerstill. There was a play last year, and I talked about this in my 5 things. There was a play last year where the Giants ran. I don't know if it was the exact same play, but I do know that it was a similar situation where Neighbors comes from behind the line of scrimmage. So the action of the play goes to the right. Neighbors is coming from behind the line of scrimmage out to the left flat. Last year, Samerstill was really anxious. He's a rookie. You got to go get to the action. Well, he bites too hard, gets too far inside. They hit Neighbors, and Neighbors runs for a little while. Well, today, Samerstill stays home. So this is why, like, that first game last year wasn't as huge a concern, because there's such a different defense, better communication, less confusion, and then you didn't have some of those corners who were not making plays for them last year. And then this time, Samerstill stays home, makes play, short game. That's the benefit of a guy who's played a year, and against that receiver, you need to do that. So I thought they did a good job for sure. The pressure packages were really good. A lot of 4-man pressures up front. Dietrich Wise, I felt like he had a solid game. Like, the newcomers did well, like, Dietrich Wise, Kinlaw, Krasky Merritt, Deebo Samuel. Josh Connolly, he did give up 1 sack. Burns gets around him, just got by him. Overall, seemed like it was pretty solid. Got to go back and watch the tape, but it looked like it was pretty solid. Tunsil, you didn't hear his name at all. That's a good thing. And no penalties on him. So, but that's the one thing I think that needs to be cleaned up are the penalties. You had the blocked punt on that one. Abdul Carter just ran right by him. Listen, man, it's a first, it's a top player in the draft who's sprinting around. Was he third pick? It's sprinting around him, right? So, I mean, it's a tough matchup for Sinnott. You got to make the block. He almost got another one, but that kid's going to be pretty good as a pass rusher. But that was one flaw. That was one of the mistakes, obviously, on special teams. I thought Nick Bellore was terrific. I thought the coverage was pretty good, but Bellore was really good. Again, I thought they were physical today. Jeremy Reeves had a big pop when he was in there in one of his 10 snaps on defense. But overall, a pretty good job. 2 goal line stands. The first one, I mean, they got a first down inside the 2 and couldn't punch it in. Just a really, really good job by that front. Couple passes, not open. And then Giants had to settle for a field goal. And at the end of the game, they had to go for it and failed to get it. So a really good job by the defense. Again, you can look at it and say, like, well, the Giants offense isn't going to be that great. Perhaps. It's still very, very hard to do, to stop inside that many stops inside the 10 for sure when they get that first down because of a penalty. To have 2 of those is impressive. So I don't care who you're playing, but I also think what this does is this is a defense that's been revamped. This is a defense that feels really good after their summer. This kind of game just adds to the confidence they have. Then you got Thursday night, obviously in Green Bay. We'll see what happens there. But I think there's more time to talk about that throughout the week. But it's a good opening day win because they won 21-6 and they can improve and they know it. And they're clear slate. Again, 432 yards on a day where they only scored 21 points. They could have had 500 if they executed the way they know they can. I think that's what the frustrating part for them is, that can they do that? But to me, that's a good sign, because this is a team that puts itself in position to gain those yards and to score those points. And more often than not, they're going to cash in. So 21-6, 1-0 on to Green Bay. Appreciate you tuning in. I'll be back on Tuesday with another episode, talking just another game, just kind of looking at the game, pointing out some big things that you see from rewatching the all 22, et cetera. And then again, Wednesday, we'll have Rob Domofsky, our Packers reporter, on. And Thursday are 5 things I think. And I do have that Jaden Daniels piece coming up Thursday. Check that out on ESPN.com. Also, if you want to go get the ESPN personalized app, do that. You get our SC for You, which is personalized. You'll be seeing me 3 days a week on the video. All right, folks, that's it for me. Appreciate you tuning in. Talk to you next time.